What if the entertainment industry's glory days weren't pure sparkle and sophistication, but rather shine constructed from deception? Picture celebrities masking personal anguish beneath manufactured personas, or leading men staging marriages to protect their careers. These weren't merely performers, they were carefully crafted illusions wrapped in scandals more explosive than modern tabloid fodder. Prepare yourself. We're pulling back the elaborate facade, and believe us, it's more chaotic than any public breakup. Entry 1. Bobby Darin, the crooner, whose sister was actually his mother. Bobby Darin possessed charisma, talent, and a New York confidence that declared, "I'm unstoppable." The smooth vocalist behind hits like Splish Splash and Mac the Knife was a young star living with urgency, driven by mortality's shadow. Medical professionals warned his life would end before 30, so he pushed relentlessly, dominated the music scene, wed Sandra Dee, and commanded every venue he performed in. Then arrived the genuine bombshell. At 32, Bobby discovered his sister was his biological mother, while his mother was really his grandmother. His entire existence suddenly contained the emotional shock of a television drama. His birth mother, Vanina, had been merely 17 at his birth, and following typical 1930s convention, the family reconstructed reality like rearranging decor. Bobby matured admiring Polly, believing she was his mother, only discovering later she was his grandmother maintaining a performance. This revelation devastated him. Already surviving on limited time due to childhood cardiac issues, Bobby descended into existential confusion. He abandoned his refined persona, relocated to Big Sur, cultivated facial hair and emotional defense, and transformed into a folk musician contemplating life's meaning. He passed at 37, 7 years beyond his predicted deadline, still attempting to understand his authentic identity. Entry 2. Raymond Burr, the television icon, who fabricated an entire family. On television, Raymond Burr portrayed Perry Mason, the unwavering legal champion who could solve any puzzle. Behind the scenes, he was constructing a biography so theatrical that melodramas would have suggested, "Dial it back, friend." You see, Burr faced a challenge. He was a homosexual actor in 1950s Hollywood, an environment where openness could terminate your career quicker than disappointing ticket sales. So he improvised brilliantly. He informed journalists he'd married Annette, who perished tragically in an aircraft accident, plus a son, also tragically lost to childhood cancer. The catch? Neither person ever lived, not remotely. This wasn't a small lie. It was an award-worthy portrayal. Burr conducted interviews sharing elaborate recollections of this fictional family, wedding dates, his child's preferred plaything, the sorrow. Entirely fabricated. Hollywood's supreme improvisation. Meanwhile, in actuality, Burr resided peacefully on vineyard property with his companion of 35 years, Robert Benavides. Their relationship was genuine, devoted, and completely concealed. When posed personal inquiries, Burr would execute full legal objections. I don't discuss that. But here's the remarkable part. While inventing an imaginary child, Burr became an authentic champion to countless foster children. He contributed discreetly, covered surgical expenses and educational costs, and elevated lives nobody else acknowledged. Entry 3. Marilyn Monroe. The foster child, the icon, and the collapse before becoming Marilyn Monroe. She was Norma Jean, another foster child harboring ambitions and a speech impediment. She moved through 11 residences by 16, perfected appearing charming to prevent being returned, and even wed the neighborhood boy simply to escape institutional care. Her whispered voice, not a seductive choice, it was childhood pain in elegant shoes. Hollywood transformed her into the quintessential bombshell, but internally, she remained that frightened young girl, terrified everyone would abandon her. Predictably, they typically did. Marilyn accumulated heartbreak like awards. 3 divorces, relationships with presidents, and nightly distress calls to companions just to avoid solitude. Behind the glamour, she self-medicated with pharmaceuticals, alcohol, and attention from supremely powerful men. It resembled less a romantic life and more a desperate plea in crimson lipstick. By 36, the planet's most recognized woman was discovered deceased, alone, overdosed, still seeking someone who'd remain. Marilyn's narrative isn't merely heartbreaking, it's the template for how Hollywood constructs legends from suffering, then neglects to support them during their descent. Entry 4. Clark Gable and Loretta Young, The Hidden Child. Hollywood denied existed. Envision this. 1935, Clark Gable, Hollywood royalty, is shooting The Call of the Wild. Away from cameras, he and fellow performer Loretta Young are creating, well, considerably more than cinema. One unexpected pregnancy later, Loretta vanishes from public view, delivers a baby secretly, places her in foster care, then courageously adopts her own daughter. Hollywood wizardry. Enter Judy Lewis, the infant who matured, questioning why she bore suspicious resemblance to Rhett Butler. Gable never recognized her. Young refuted everything until Judy reached adulthood and essentially deduced the truth herself. The motivation, the concealment. Loretta was Catholic, unmarried, and contractually bound. 3 elements you absolutely didn't combine with motherhood in 1930s entertainment. The controversy was buried more thoroughly than legendary mysteries. Even Judy's ears required surgical alteration during childhood to disguise her resemblance to Gable. Yes, genuinely. Decades afterward, Judy transformed her anguish into strength, becoming a performer and champion, while Loretta eventually admitted everything, consumed with remorse yet relieved. Regarding Clark, he strutted into immortality, never uttering a syllable. Entry 5. Jack Nicholson, The Supreme Revelation, Your Sister is Your Mother. Jack Nicholson believed he experienced a fairly typical childhood, well, as typical as New Jersey permits with theatrical inclinations. Raised by a nurturing mother named Ethel and a fashionable older sister named June, Jack developed rebelliously, charmingly, destined for stardom. But at 37, a Time magazine journalist casually delivered the explosive news. "Hey Jack, were you aware your sister is genuinely your mom?" Century's greatest revelation. Turns out June had conceived at 17, and in a masterful demonstration of 1930s scandal prevention, the family determined to raise infant Jack as her sibling, not her offspring. Grandmother Ethel performed the maternal role so convincingly, even Jack suspected nothing. And when truth emerged, both women had already departed, leaving Jack to process one of Hollywood's most significant wait what family moments. The most extraordinary part? Jack handled it like a professional. No public breakdowns, no tabloid dramatics, just considerable contemplation and several iconic expressions. Entry 6. Spencer Tracy, the faithful husband who cohabited with his girlfriend for 26 years. Spencer Tracy, the cinematic icon with features designed for monochrome cinema and a conscience pointing toward tormented complexity. Audiences cherished him as the virtuous character, the clergyman, the quintessential American father. But privately, let's acknowledge Tracy's personal circumstances were a 26-year equilibrium between transgression, remorse, and 2 women who never created drama. He wed Louise Treadwell in 1923. They had a hearing-impaired son, which Spencer interpreted as celestial retribution for, well, something, and immediately began descending into alcoholism and Catholic guilt. Divorce? Not possible. He was a devoted Catholic, remember? But infidelity? Apparently acceptable if accompanied by sufficient shame. Enter Katharine Hepburn, the ultimate other woman who never pressured, never married him, and never once publicized it. For over 2 decades, she was his devoted partner from a discreet distance. Tracy cohabited with Hepburn, loved her, and maintained Louise officially documented. Publicly, he was a family man. Privately, he was a romantic complication wrapped in scotch. But here's the twist. While Spencer guilt-tripped through existence, Louise was transforming the world. She established the John Tracy Clinic for hearing-impaired children, an organization still assisting thousands, and Hepburn quietly supported her too. Entry 7. Joan Crawford, Mommy Dearest or Maternal Deceiver. Joan Crawford was the quintessential Hollywood monarch, eyebrows sufficiently sharp to cut glass, gowns tighter than studio agreements, and work ethic that intimidated even fellow actors. But beneath the flawlessly arranged family photographs was a maternal catastrophe awaiting eruption. To audiences, she was supermom, adopting 4 children, responding to admirer correspondence with lipstick kisses, and managing her household like an MGM production. But behind locked doors, her daughter Christina narrated a vastly different account, complete with physical discipline, alcohol-fueled tirades, and that notorious declaration, "No wire hangers." In her autobiography, Mommy Dearest, Christina depicted Joan as a control enthusiast in designer clothing, more villain than caregiver. Crawford's younger children disputed the mistreatment, but by then the harm to her reputation was complete. America's beloved movie mother became synonymous with domestic terror, and just when circumstances couldn't become messier, consider Georgia Tann, the questionable infant broker who assisted Joan in adopting 2 children. Let's acknowledge the documentation wasn't precisely ethical, but here's the complication. Joan was also profoundly generous. She covered hospital expenses for strangers, guided struggling performers, and arrived to filming with her dialogue memorized and everyone else's too. Entry 8, Bing Crosby. White Christmas, harsh discipline to society. Bing Crosby was Mr. Christmas, the velvet vocalist behind White Christmas, the priest with charm, the father everyone desired. But according to his biological sons, try strict patriarch with physical punishment. Gary Crosby, Bing's eldest, abandoned the festive cheer in his autobiography, Going My Own Way, alleging father was more authoritarian than crooner. Weekly weight checks, emotional distance, and occasional physical discipline if you didn't achieve the correct note. 2 siblings corroborated his account. One even took his own life. Cue the uncomfortable silence beneath the holiday decorations. But wait, the continuation has a twist. Bing's second family with a considerably younger spouse painted an entirely different portrait. He was affectionate, attentive, present at school functions and parent meetings. Either Bing attended serious parenting education between marriages, or somebody's not revealing the complete narrative. So which Bing is authentic? The pipe-smoking, golf-loving television dad, or the off-key disciplinarian? Perhaps both. Perhaps fame's pressure and personal struggles divided him fundamentally. Entry 9. Merle Oberon, the star who concealed her background better than intelligence agencies. Merle Oberon illuminated the screen in Wuthering Heights with her aristocratic beauty and mysterious allure. Hollywood claims she originated from privileged ancestry in Tasmania, sophisticated, enigmatic, thoroughly British. But here's the twist. Merle was actually born in Mumbai, India, to a 14-year-old mother of mixed heritage. Surprise! The reality was too controversial for 1930s Hollywood, so the studio executed a concealment worthy of espionage. They rewrote her background narrative, relocated her birthplace to Tasmania, bonus, local documentation was destroyed in a fire, how convenient, and promoted her as nobility in heels. Her own mother was publicly rebranded as her domestic servant, her actual identity buried beneath layers of makeup, studio manipulation, and fear. Merle spent years avoiding cameras, inquiries, and any sunlight that might reveal her complexion. Even her spouse didn't know the truth. To preserve the illusion, she endured painful skin treatments to appear more European and refused returning to Australia just in case someone announced, "You're not from here, love." But beneath the deceptions was a generous, profoundly sensitive soul. She donated thousands to children's organizations and quietly battled the isolation of living an inauthentic existence. Entry 10. Rita Hayworth, Hollywood's desire goddess. With a vanishing identity before becoming Rita Hayworth, she was Margarita Carmen Cancino, a gifted Spanish-American dancer with undeniable movement and a surname that made studio executives nervous. Hollywood examined her and declared, "Too ethnic." So what did they do? Provided a new name, dyed her dark hair reddish-brown, and, wait for this, burned her hairline backward with electrolysis to make her appear less Latina. Yes, people, they literally eliminated her heritage one hair follicle at a time. But the transformation wasn't merely superficial. Behind the sultry smile of Gilda, Rita was concealing a secret far darker than her natural hair color. childhood mistreatment at her own father's hands, who displayed her as his dance partner since 12. The world witnessed glamour. She remembered trauma. She once declared, "Men go to bed with Gilda and wake up with me." A heartbreaking statement from someone perpetually trapped between who she was and who Hollywood instructed her to be. As if that weren't sufficient, fate served one final cruel twist: early onset Alzheimer's. By her 40s, people assumed she was intoxicated or troublesome. In reality, she was losing her memories, including the painful ones she never healed. In her final years, she sometimes reverted to Spanish, the one fragment of her authentic self that refused remaining hidden. Because regardless of Hollywood's efforts, truth always finds methods to return to the spotlight. Entry 11. Rock Hudson, Hollywood's heartthrob in heterosexual costume. In the 1950s, Rock Hudson wasn't merely a film star, he was the film star. Tall, square-jawed, dreamlike, the type of man mothers swooned over and fathers secretly admired, but behind that all-American smile, a secret substantial enough to shake Hollywood's manicured foundation. Rock was gay, and in a community where being open could terminate your career faster than poor grooming, that wasn't viable. So when whispers started circulating in 1955, his representative went full covert operation and organized a staged marriage to his secretary, Phyllis Gates. Voila! America's bachelor monarch became a husband immediately. Photographers captured moments, admirers swooned, and truth stayed concealed, at least temporarily. The marriage lasted 3 years, the public persona much longer. Meanwhile, Rock lived duplicitously, romantic comedy lead by daylight, closeted man by darkness. He dated men secretly, evaded tabloids like hazards, and maintained the charade with method actor precision. But then came 1985. Rock Hudson became the first major celebrity publicly disclosing he had AIDS. In that moment, the Hollywood illusion fractured, and something authentic, raw, and incredibly courageous replaced it. Entry 12. Clara Bow, the original it girl with an unglamorous past. Clara Bow was the roaring 20s embodied, flapper attire, finger waves, and sufficient sex appeal to overload every silent film projector in town. She wasn't just a star, she was the star. But off-screen, Clara's life was less Great Gatsby and more trauma wrapped in sequins. Born in a Brooklyn tenement in 1905, Clara matured surrounded by chaos. Her mother, diagnosed with mental illness, once attempted killing her while sleeping. Her father, let's acknowledge abusive, doesn't even scratch the surface. She escaped poverty by winning a beauty competition, and Hollywood recruited her faster than you can say Silent Siren. But studios weren't interested in her pain, just her appearance. They rewrote her background, applied some makeup, and marketed her as the carefree party girl with it. Behind the scenes, Clara was battling PTSD, insomnia, and crushing anxiety. Fame intensified it. Tabloids obsessed over her romantic life, portraying her as wild and promiscuous when really she was simply trying to survive. By 28, she'd had enough. She departed from fame, retired to Nevada, and lived quietly far from the cameras that once adored her. Entry 13. Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces and 2 silent parents. Lon Chaney wasn't just a silent film legend, he was silence itself. Best known for haunting classics like The Phantom of the Opera and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Chaney could contort his face and body into anything. But his true superpower? Communicating volumes without uttering words. Why? Because both his parents were deaf. Born in 1883, Lon matured in a household where sign language was the family soundtrack. He learned early how to communicate with his eyes, his hands, his entire body. Essentially, mime wasn't a performance, it was existence. While other children were learning verbal communication, Lon was learning to speak through movement, and he utilized that skill to terrify and mesmerize audiences worldwide. But here's the part that'll make you emotional. Chaney never exploited this origin story. In an era when disabilities were whispered about or hidden, he protected his parents fiercely. Even his first wife didn't know they were deaf until she met them. Surprise! His empathy for outsiders, the misunderstood, the monstrous, the lonely, wasn't an act. He'd lived it. Off-screen, he supported his parents, stayed humble, and never gave interviews. Because why talk when you can let your work speak volumes? Entry 14. Gene Tierney, The Hollywood Tragedy. No one anticipated, except that one. Admirer Gene Tierney was the kind of star who didn't just illuminate the screen. She mesmerized it, sultry, elegant, untouchable. But behind her flawless face was a real-life plot twist so tragic even Agatha Christie couldn't have written it better. Actually, she did. More on that momentarily. In 1943, Jean was pregnant and doing what Hollywood stars do, greeting fans at war bond events. One admirer, desperate for an autograph, broke quarantine from a rubella outbreak just to meet her. Sweet gesture? Sure. Deadly? Absolutely. The result? Jean's daughter Daria was born blind, deaf, and severely disabled. Jean was shattered. The fan later boasted about the encounter, not knowing she'd basically rewritten Jean's life into Greek tragedy. Unable to cope, Jean placed Daria in a private institution, a decision kept secret while she posed on red carpets, perfectly composed. But inside, she was collapsing. Mental breakdowns, electroshock therapy, memory loss. It became so severe she forgot entire years of her life, including moments with her healthy second daughter. Oh, and that Agatha Christie novel, The Mirror Cracked, was inspired by her story. So yes, Gene Tierney is literally the face of fictionalized emotional devastation. Entry 15. Barbara Stanwyck, the toughest dame in Hollywood, except regarding her son. Barbara Stanwyck was Hollywood's ultimate steel magnolia, sharp, classy, and ready to slap a man across the face and win an Oscar while doing it. But behind the fierce femme fatale persona was one role she never quite mastered: mother. In 1932, she and actor Frank Fay adopted a baby boy, Dion, hoping a little bundle of joy might repair their disastrous marriage. Spoiler, it didn't. Frank drank, Barbara worked, and after the divorce, she raised Dion solo while juggling a blazing career. She gave him everything: top tutors, nannies, the best Hollywood could buy, except perhaps warmth. Turns out Stanwyck's version of love was more business negotiation than cuddle session. By the time Dion hit his teens, things became frosty rapidly. The older he got, the more distant she became. In her later years, when asked about him, Barbara coldly stated, "I have no son." Ouch. That's not a burn, it's an emotional flamethrower. Rumor has it Dion had his own demons, substance abuse, brushes with law enforcement, but no one's really certain. Barbara kept her private life under tighter security than military installations. When she passed, Dion received $5,000 in her will. Translation: the legal minimum to prevent him from suing. Entry 16. Jerry Lewis, America's comic, unless you were his alleged daughter. Jerry Lewis made the world laugh for decades, rubber-faced, loud, outrageous, and somehow always tripping over invisible furniture. He raised billions for Jerry's kids through his legendary telethons. But one kid he never raised, his own. Maybe. Enter Susan Minaret, a woman who spent her life saying, "Hi, I think Jerry Lewis is my dad," while Lewis spent his life replying, "Never heard of her." According to Susan, her mother had a years-long affair with Lewis in the 1950s. 9 months later, tada, Susan. Did Jerry ever meet her? Nope. Take a paternity test? Nah. Return her letters? Also no. In fact, he went full ghost before ghosting was even a thing. But science. Science had something to say. In 2009, a DNA test showed an 88.7% chance that Lewis was indeed her father. That's not maybe. That's get him a mug that says world's dad, reluctantly. Oh, and as if the irony gods weren't done, while Jerry raised money for sick kids on TV, Susan, his alleged daughter, lived in poverty and battled Crohn's disease. And when Jerry died, he left millions to everyone but her. And his 6 sons from his first marriage also cut out. Clearly, Jerry loved drama as much off-screen as he did on. Entry 17. Charlie Chaplin. Comedy genius or underage bride collector? Spoiler. Both Charlie Chaplin made the world laugh without saying a word. The tramp with the cane, the mustache, and the heart. But off-screen, let's just say he had a thing for younger women. And by younger, we mean barely out of homeroom. In 1924, at age 35, Chaplin fell for 16-year-old Lita Grey during filming of The Gold Rush. When she got pregnant, he didn't rush to the altar. He rushed to Mexico, where laws were looser and scandals could be quietly sealed with a wedding ring. But the marriage? Total disaster. Lita gave birth to 2 sons while Chaplin allegedly womanized, criticized, and emotionally steamrolled her. Their eventual divorce was a tabloid goldmine. Lita's 50-page complaint read like a soap opera written by someone with a grudge and a typewriter. Chaplin had a history. Multiple relationships with teenage girls, each swept under the rug with studio pressure and PR spin. But while the headlines screamed scandal, audiences kept showing up for his movies. Here's the twist. The man accused of exploiting young women created films filled with deep empathy for the poor, the powerless, the voiceless. Go figure. Entry 18. Gloria Graham, the femme fatale who married her stepson. Yup, you read that right. Gloria Graham was the queen of film noir, sultry voice, smoldering gaze, and a kiss that spelled certain doom. But her most shocking plot twist didn't happen on screen. It happened in her bedroom. In the late 1940s, Gloria married director Nicholas Ray. So far, so standard, until he allegedly walked in one night and caught her in bed with his 13-year-old son, Tony. Yep, his son. Gloria denied it. They divorced, and the incident vanished into hush-hush Hollywood whispers. Fast forward a few years, Gloria reconnects with Tony, now a grown man, and in true wait-what fashion, they get married in a secret ceremony in Tijuana. She was 37. He was 22. So yes, Gloria officially became her own ex-stepson's wife. Try explaining that at family dinners. When the press finally caught wind of the story during a custody battle, her career flatlined faster than a bad test screening. Studios blacklisted her, the public gasped, and Gloria took her talents to theater and low-budget TV. And yet the marriage lasted 14 years. Was it scandalous? Absolutely. Messy? For sure. But friends said Gloria was vulnerable, childlike, always chasing the love and stability she never had growing up. Entry 19. Ingrid Bergman, from Hollywood sweetheart to public enemy number 1. Ingrid Bergman was the ultimate good girl, luminous, wholesome, practically glowing with virtue. After Casablanca and The Bells of St. Mary's, America saw her as the poster woman for class and moral purity. So when she dared to have gasp, a personal life, the nation lost its collective mind. In 1949, while married, Ingrid flew to Italy to work with neo-realist director Roberto Rossellini. They fell in love, made the film Stromboli, and, plot twist, she got pregnant. Before the film even hit theaters, Ingrid was starring in a real-life scandal. The backlash was so intense the U.S. Senate literally denounced her. Yes, the Senate, as in actual politicians, stopped what they were doing to scold Ingrid for having an affair. Suddenly, she went from America's sweetheart to Hollywood's harlot. Her movies were banned. Churches boycotted her. Fans wrote hate mail. Meanwhile, Rossellini shrugged in Italian. But Ingrid wasn't hiding. She married Rossellini, had 3 kids, including future actress Isabella Rossellini, and made some of the most artistically bold films of her career, far from the judgmental glare of Tinseltown. 7 years later, she returned to Hollywood with Anastasia and won an Oscar. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves more than a scandal, it's a comeback.